What is going on, everybody? I'm Rob Westerman of GVP Daily, and more importantly, I am joined by Peter Bukowski today to chat some Packers-Bears football. You can find him over at the Locked On Packers podcast. He's got a newsletter called The Leap that he would love for you to subscribe to. You can also find him all over the internet covering Packers football. Peter, thanks for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready for rivalry week. We actually get 2 rivalry weeks in a row, which is pretty great. And like, I don't know, Packers Bucks, if we can call that a rivalry anymore. Like, it's a former rivalry, and then the Bucks have kind of kicked their butts the last few years. So like, I don't know, but it's kind of like, 3 straight weeks with old NFC Central opponents is pretty cool.
Right. Speaking of that, let's dive in here. Some good news dropped about 12 hours ago in that Alan Lazard is expected to play. Anytime, you get your wide receiver one back, it's obviously a big deal. A wide receiver who you think is better than Mike Williams. Maybe you're right. Not so sure if I agree.
It's not what I said.
After what we saw last week with a Lazard-less receiver room for Rodgers to work with, just how big is it to get him back on the field tonight?
Well, I think it does a couple things, and the same is true with the Elton Jenkins injury, and we can get into that, I'm sure. But what it does is it not only puts Alan Lazard on the field, another player that the Packers and Aaron Rodgers trust, a guy that I think that they have designed, this offense not around entirely, but designed to have him out there because of what he can do in the slot. Aaron Rodgers called him one of the best slot receivers in the league. I think that telegraphs how they want to use him. Yeah. He's going to play a ton in the slot. He's going to play as that Y move tight end at times. He's going to play the F. He's going to be H-back at times. Mm-hmm. And his versatility just does so much for this offense. And what it also does is, and some of your listeners are not going to like this, but it takes Randall Cobb off the field. Mm-hmm. And at this point in his career, unfortunately, I think that's the good thing. Like, I think if he is out there, he needs to be out there selectively in like third down situations, red zone situations, the kind of stuff that you need, like your most trusted guys potentially out there. But the juice is just not there with him anymore, man. Like it hurts me to say, because he's the intro to my podcast, for crying out loud. I love Randall Cobb, the person. I've loved watching him play his whole career, but him and Sammy Watkins, they just, especially with the speed that Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs have, they're just not on that level. And then the other part of this is Kyler Gordon is the nickelback for the Bears. He's a rookie, and he was not great against the 49ers in a monsoon. Gave up a 44-yard catch and run, was allowed 5 catches in 5 targets for 70 yards against a Trey Lance that did not look comfortable in, again, a monsoon. So right. It's not a great start. No, he's a rookie. He can get better, all that stuff. I don't want to say like he sucks now, but I think they're going to test him a lot. And if he's in the slot against Alan Lazard, I think that's a much more favorable matchup for Green Bay this week than it would have been last week.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, brother. I saw you note a little something earlier about Kyler Gordon. Had a rough time covering the slot. So hopefully, we can exploit that by throwing Alan Lazard, his way a little bit. Like you said, Rodgers has said he's a great slot receiver. He can kind of go all sorts of ways, whether, it's up the field, across the field. He can block well, as we all know. And just having that, extra guy in there that Rodgers trusts is huge. Last week, I was hoping for a little more from Cobb, Watkins, Tunyon, but we didn't get much of it. Why do you think that was?
I think Tunyon was on a pitch count because there was like way more Tyler Davis than is reasonable. And then no DeGuara until the end, which you're still going to have to explain that one to me, because he goes out and immediately looks like he's got more juice than Tyler Davis. I just don't understand that. Matt LaFleur loved him when he was drafted, and Aaron Rodgers does not seem to love him. Mm-hmm. And I, one drop and all of a sudden it's just like, well, this guy can't play anymore. That's not the case with Christian Watson. I think Rodgers probably just doesn't think he's that talented, which, maybe he's not. Yeah. But he looks like he's got more juice than Tyler Davis. That's for sure. I think the reason you didn't see a lot of targets for Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins is they just weren't open very much. And especially in the case of Randall Cobb. I mean, I watched the game 4 times. And like Randall Cobb was open on the play he made. Like that was it. Like it was so startling to watch him just look so just like he's running in cement. He just does not have that burst anymore. And you know, the Sammy Watkins plays that he did make were those sort of like RPO screen check with me's where it's just like, okay, I can either hand it off as Aaron Rodgers or just throw this little out to Sammy Watkins. He picks up a first down. Cool. Now they had a couple plays on those deep overs on play action and just couldn't get to them. There was a play where Sammy Watkins was about to break open. Rodgers is looking at him and doesn't throw it. And I just don't know why. He got jumpy in the pocket. It was, for my money, it was the worst play of Rodgers for the day because the Vikings didn't do anything weird. It was that quarter half, and Sammy Watkins is there. And so it's just like, just sit in the pocket. You have time and fire it. Like I didn't understand that. There was the other one on the play action where Eric Kendricks just makes a really nice play. Sammy, that's going to be a 40-yard chunk play if they can block that up. But Kendricks just makes a nice play. He got fooled so bad that he had to just convert it to a blitz, which is something we saw Devondre Campbell do a couple times last year too. So it's just one of those unfortunate things. I think they'll be a little luckier this week. And I think they'll catch the Bears with a couple of those. Although this is a Bears team, Pro Football Focus measures how play action affects linebackers. And in the Matty Eberflus era, those linebackers were the best in the league at not reacting to play action. So that's really interesting. How much is play action going to be on the menu tonight if these Bears linebackers are not going to bite hard on it? And they didn't against the 49ers. And that's Kyle Shanahan, who is the play action god. And that's with Trey Lance. And that's in a monsoon where you expect them to be running the ball a lot. So I'll be interested to see what the Matt LaFleur counter for that is, if there is something that he can get to. If these guys are not going to bite on play action, is it just going to be a steady dose of outside zone? Is it going to be some more gap and power stuff where like you're going to climb to the second level and try and pull a guard around and get a linebacker who's 5 yards off the line of scrimmage? You know, I think there's some interesting things that they can do there. But I think we need to recalibrate expectations for those two receivers in particular. I think Tonyan is going to be a big part of this offense when he's full strength, and I think that starts this week. Yeah,
I've been on the Tonyan train for a while. Obviously with the whole Rodgers trust thing, and the same thing with Sammy Watkins. I thought, you know, maybe out the gate he'd get a little more targets, but him and Cobb just didn't look like the rest of the team. Had energy, they're moving slow, and I don't know. Sammy looked bigger out there, and I'm like, you know, he kind of looks more like a tight end almost. And as far as I've been listening to your show, obviously, and you were talking about not too long ago, you know, how long is a Sammy Watkins experience gonna go for? Like a couple weeks until you throw Romeo out there and Christian out there more? I don't know. How long, you know, can you let it go for?
We're like, it's on the clock. Like
I was going to say, the clock started now.
It has to be because of what we saw in week one. And I mentioned this, I think in my after show, but it might've been on the Tuesday show. The stuff that Sammy Watkins got open on was schemed.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's doing, and it's not like he on these second reaction plays is working his way open with Aaron Rodgers. Like that stuff wasn't happening.
Right.
So if he's just in there to run these deep overs on play action, Christian Watson is much faster and much more explosive if he makes the catch. Romeo Doubs is much faster and much more explosive if he makes the catch. So at what point is it becoming just like you're cutting off your nose to spite your face to have him out there? You know, week one was not good.
It was bad.
And he led the receivers, I think, in snaps. I don't think, but Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, they were right there. I mean, there wasn't much that separated them. I think Alan Lazard comes in. That means Cobb gets fewer snaps. I think Watkins will still get a decent amount of snaps, but it has to be clear to these coaches from watching the tape, he just is on a different level speed-wise from these other guys. Mm-hmm. And if all he's out there really is to run these crossing routes and deep overs, there's better guys on the field, at least better athletically, to do that. Plus, some of the mental mistakes were on the veterans. Mm-hmm. Like there was a play I posted on Twitter where you have Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins running routes into the same throwing lane. It's like, that is not the play design. I know, I don't pretend to know every play and every concept. I know that is not the concept. Yeah. So someone screwed up. It's either Randall Cobb or it's Sammy Watkins. It doesn't matter. They're both veterans. That's why they're out there, to not have those kinds of screw ups. And I understand why Aaron Rodgers was mad about mental mistakes. I don't think it was just about the rookies. I think that was easy. You know, he was shown on the sideline MFing people. And I don't think that was, a lot of people were like, oh, he must be mad about the rookies. And I was like, I don't know. So. Aaron Jones and Mercedes Lewis ran into each other on a staple concept. And you have Cobb and Watkins running the same, similar routes into the same window. Like, this was not just the rookies who had their mistakes. This was everybody. And of course, we know what happened on defense.
Yeah, and I think the whole Christian Watson drop on the first play of the game probably shadowed the rest of the game, him being frustrated. But really, like you said, Cobb, Watkins running into each other. Those guys are out there, like you said, they're veterans. They're supposed to not do that. And same with Mercedes and Aaron Jones. It's like they just weren't ready. And I was listening to Andy Herman this morning talk about, the Bears, they won and we didn't. So it's kind of hard to thrash on them a little bit. And they also played with energy. Like last week they came out and they were ready to roll. And yeah, falling 0-2 could be a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen, but if they come out with energy and we come out like last week, could be a little concerning. So.
Okay. But the Bears won. Yes. That is in fact true.
Mm-hmm.
The Bears looked like absolute garbage in the first half.
Their offense.
So it's not like they came out like a house of fire, mm-hmm. right? So they came out with some juice on defense, that's for sure. The offense looked abysmal, and it took Justin Fields prestidigitation, which he can do, and so you have to be aware of that, to get them even just on the board.
Right.
And then it was a turnover that leads to the touchdown that ends up with the go-ahead score. I believe it was a turnover, if my memory serves.
Yeah.
That was
it from Deebo Samuel, fumble.
And so it's like, okay, the 49ers, like if you look at the DVOA numbers, like the 49ers won that game going away, play to play, down to down.
Yep.
And made a couple big mistakes that led to this issue. And it's sort of the reverse of what happened with Green Bay. Green Bay, from the Bears' perspective, the 49ers and the Packers played a somewhat similar game in that it was a couple plays. Now, for the Packers, it was a couple plays on both sides.
Right.
The 49ers defense, by and large, played pretty well. The offense did not. The Packers offense, like Aaron Rodgers made this point, they're 2 plays from having 2 more touchdowns. Like if Christian Watson catches the walk-in touchdown, 7. And if Rodgers pulls the ball and reads the play out correctly,
he walks in for a touchdown.
And then they have a 4th and 1 in the red zone that they blow. Like they very easily could have had 24. Like they could have kicked the field goal there if they needed to, given this situation. If it's 23-21, let's say, they kick a field goal to go ahead with 5 minutes left. Probably they should go for it, but they probably kick a field goal, and they might run a different play. So the whole game is different. And if you look at it on defense, it's really 3 or 4 plays.
Right.
Like the first drive, fine, unscripted or scripted, new coach. You don't really know exactly what's going on there. They played really well. That wasn't the breakdowns was not really that big a deal, except on the 4th down, but that's going to happen. It's the 64-yarder and it's the 36-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
Like those are really the plays that defined the game, the coverage busts. If you don't have those, like the Vikings were 3 of 14 on 3rd down.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like they were extending these drives. It wasn't like every drive they were going out there and getting 50, 60 yards. And, when they didn't score, they were stalling at the 40 or whatever. Like no, they scored 23 points and 3 of those were gift wrapped off a Rodgers fumble that the Packers defense held on that drive.
It's like negative 5 yards, I think, on that drive.
Right. Exactly. So it's one of those things where it's just sort of like, man, the longer I've done this, Rob, the more I realize when you kick someone's ass, it's never as decisive as you think.
Yeah.
And when you get your ass kicked, it's never as decisive as you think. Like it's always 5 plays that decide a game. And in this case, the Packers blew 3 of them on offense and 2 of them on defense. Like they didn't make any of the plays.
No.
And the Vikings got all 5. And so you lose by 2 scores. If you go back and look at like week 1 last year, like Aaron Rodgers is joking that it was better than last year week 1 because they scored 4 more points. It was so much better than last year. Like last year week 1, they did nothing right on any side of the ball ever. Did they even move the ball into the red zone in week 1? And the defense was terrible. Like it was just that was just a complete bed, whatting. I don't know if I'm allowed to say on the show,
2 picks too. It's just like
it was a complete mess. This was not that. This was some bad luck, some bad execution, and a couple big mistakes that turned into monster mistakes. Like the Vikings made a couple mistakes and they just sort of got lucky that it didn't come back to hurt them, like the Kendricks play, like Patrick Peterson getting dusted by Christian Watson. Like those are bad plays that the Packers just couldn't turn into positives. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck. Like this game was so much closer than the final score indicates, and the Packers played like crap. Like that's the crazy thing. So I expect if this team is a Super Bowl team, if they're even like a playoff team, you beat the Bears by 2 scores tonight. Like that's just, if you have any self-respect as a defense, you go up and you beat the crap out of Justin Fields. And if you have any self-respect as an offense, you go out and you average 6 yards a carry again against this team. You score in the red zone, you hit 2 or 3 big plays, and you win 35-13. Like that is what a Super Bowl team would do, because this Bears team, man, there's just no talent on this team. That's just the reality. And yes, they won in week 1. And yes, they could absolutely win tonight, because it's the NFL. And that's just how it is. If the Packers play the way that they played in week 1, they're not going to score 7 points again. Like 7 is the least number of points they could have possibly scored given the way that they played. It's not going to happen again. So that being said, if this is a 21-17 game, I won't be that surprised. But the Packers still have to prove it. They still have to prove that they're a good team. So go out and do it.
Yeah. No, and like you said about the defense, I don't think they played a terrible game last week. It's just
they didn't.
A few plays here and there, 6 second-half points. On the first drive, they even held them to a 4th down, and then obviously they converted it for a
40% pressure rate on Kirk Cousins. So, and the big play, the 64-yarder, was off pressure.
Right.
Kirk just made a great play. Kirk Cousins is like Aaron Rodgers against the Packers, and then he's like Jimmy G against everyone else. It's unbelievable. So he's been so good against the Packers in his career. He's I guess he's like Jimmy G because he's the Packers killer.
Seriously. He's got a winning record now, with him leading the Vikings 5-4, I think now. And I'm like, are you serious?
I think it's 5-3.
Could be. It could be.
It's 5-3.
Last year he didn't even play against us the second game, or the first game, excuse me.
I think he's 5-3 as a career because he has got that Washington win.
Oh yeah, now you're
in the run the table, because that was after he gives the quote. I think we're gonna run the table.
Yeah. Yep.
They hung like 40 on the Packers that night.
Absolutely embarrassing.
Unbelievable.
All right, let's move on here. Next thing here. So 4 guys are questionable tonight. One of them being Alan Lazard, who presumably will be playing. Other 3, all O-line guys. David Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, John Rennie Jr. I know you think David and his insurance ads have some secret messages. I'm hoping he plays. And nobody knows. I feel like the coaches don't really know, or if they do, they're not saying they do. My question for you: who plays from that group, if any?
Well, I think John Rennie Jr. practicing on Friday says he's progressing through the concussion protocol.
Yep.
I think, barring setbacks, he's going to play. Now the question is, then what do you do at right guard? Well, I think that depends on what happens at right tackle.
Yep.
And like I think there is a universe where, and I tweeted this sort of as a joke, but like I'm not actually joking. Like there's a universe where Elton Jenkins starts at left tackle and Zach Tom plays right tackle, just because like that could happen. Like they could just think Zach Tom is that good that he needs to play.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they think Royce Newman and Zach Hansen or Jake Hansen. I always call him Zach Hansen. I think Zach Hansen was a Hansen brother. Jake Hansen. They both have long blonde hair. So it's like, anything is possible to me. I think there's a good chance Elton Jenkins plays. Like I said this on my Friday show, I think if he doesn't play, it would now be surprising. And I think if Bakhtiari played, it would be surprising, especially when you have the report from Ryan Wood that they're expecting David Bakhtiari to not play this game.
Yep.
I don't know. Matt LaFleur said last week, like they knew on Monday who was going to play and who wasn't. I think there's a plan for them. Bach is moving pretty well, despite the video that was out there. They don't seem to be worried about his movement skills.
Yeah.
And Elton Jenkins practiced in full. That seems like a big thing. So either he's going to play tonight or he plays next week, barring a setback. Like that, those are the options. And also the reason they brought these guys off PUP is to play in either this week or next week. Because if they're not going to play in the first 3 weeks, then it's like, well, and if that was the plan, because it seems like this has been the plan, then why didn't you just save the roster spot and let them start the season on PUP, only missing 4 games. Like
Yeah.
it's one of those things. So like, unless there's been setbacks, and I don't think there are, I think Elton Jenkins has a good chance to play. That's not a guarantee, but a good chance. I think John Runyon Jr. is going to play. And then the question is, then how does that affect everyone else? Yeah. So is John Runyon Jr. ready to go to the point that he can be out there? Or did they spend the week with Zach Tom? They feel comfortable with Zach Tom and John Runyon gets Wally pipped. Like that might be the case. But an offensive line that's got Elton Jenkins on it, which means no Jake Hansen, which means Royce Newman at right guard. Great. And if they want to, hey, look, if they want to do the thing where Zach Tom is playing right guard now and John Runyon Jr. is playing left, or they flip those, also great with me. I think Zach Tom is sort of, if he's going to play guard, more intuitive as a left guard. But then you've got Nyman and Tom, so maybe that's where you not want to do that. But I think that's a like the best 5 has Zach Tom and John Runyon Jr. in it.
Right.
So however you need to finagle it to make that your best 5, do that. I hope they do that. At this point, I don't have faith that they will do that, but that is what I would do.
No, especially what we saw them trot out there last week. Obviously, Royce Newman and Jake Hansen are the odd guys out if Elton is back. But we don't know. Clearly, as of last week, I was kind of questioning that. But I was talking about it a little bit on the show the other day. I've seen some Packers fans come out of the woodwork as far as really going at David about his whole situation. And for one myself, I've been pretty patient. About his recovery. Each week he doesn't play is obviously a little more concerning. Like you said, you'd be surprised. I don't expect him to play tonight. I think both Elton and JRJ are probably coin flips. As surprising as it sounds, I think Elton, kind of like what you said, is the one that we might see out of all 3 of them. My opinion. Obviously, JRJ being a concussion protocol, you never really know, how that's going to shake out since it just happened 7 days ago. David and the team seemingly taking the long haul approach to getting him back, with you referenced the Ryan Wood report last week. So I'd be surprised to see him tonight. But as you said earlier, Elton being a full participant Friday, on top of that, no longer having the pec injury. Be interesting to see. Like I said earlier, I'm a Locked On Packers regular, so I know your stance on the whole Bakhtiari situation. Quite possibly could be his last year as a Packer if he doesn't get healthy. But for the viewers here that don't listen to Locked On Packers, and if you don't, I recommend you do. What are your expectations with David moving forward this season, whether it's he gets healthy or whether, he just doesn't?
I think he will get healthy at some point. ACL injuries don't end careers anymore. But is he going to be consistently the week in, week out stalwart that he was before the injury? And I don't even mean, is he like not going to be an all-pro? I think he will be that. Like if you look at someone like Terran Armstead,
yep,
he plays 13 games every year. He is always on the injury report.
Right.
But when he's on the field, he is awesome. I think that's what you're going to get from David Bakhtiari. Don't expect when he comes back, let's say he comes back in week 3, don't expect him to have him for weeks 3 through, 21, if they go to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Is that right? So let's start the expectations there. But I expect him when he's on the field to be good. Like he's just too good a player. He's too smart. He prepares too well. And he doesn't rely on his explosiveness the same way that like a receiver might or a corner might. Like offensive linemen can sort of ham and egg it. And he's always been a guy who does it with leverage. He does it with timing. He does it with hand placement. He does it with his length. He does it with all the different things that he's able to do. And he does it with feel too, because he knows on this concept, ball's going to be out quick. Like, maybe I don't exert myself quite as much on this one. He's also, I think, and I say this as a compliment, but Bears fans and Vikings fans will get mad about it. He's the best holder in the league. Like nobody holds as effectively as he does. And so if that's the case, like it's a little bit better when you have lesser physical gifts, when you don't have the same sort of push on that leg to get into your kick slide or whatever, that when your hands go on, it's tough then. Like then what? And sometimes he'll overset, get beat inside. That is like been his Achilles heel. That would be the concern, is if he doesn't trust the knee, if he doesn't trust his explosiveness getting back, that he's going to overset and get beat inside more often. But guess what? You'll just live. Like 80% of David Bakhtiari is better than more than half the league starting left tackles, right? Yeah. Like probably more than that.
Yeah, probably more, I'd say.
So like 80% of David Bakhtiari might be the second best offensive tackle in the NFC North.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's crazy to say. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just how good he is. So my expectation is when he plays, he's going to be good, but I think it's going to require some maintenance. He's going to have knee soreness. He's going to have, like, we're just to the point now where there's going to be swelling. There's going to be issues. I don't think it's going to be quite Julio Jones where he is a game time decision every week.
Yeah.
Mostly because the Packers kind of don't do that. Like, you can either play and you can prove you play, or you can't. And maybe he falls into the category, Aaron Rodgers made the joke on Pat McAfee that, like, there's a select group of players who could not practice all week and play. Yeah. Bakhtiari is probably in that group, but that's not going to happen in week 2 and week 3. Like, that would happen in the playoffs where they're going to give him the week to practice and then he gives them the okay. Mm-hmm. I'm certainly not ready to write the obituary for David Bakhtiari as a Green Bay Packer. Like, I think there is a world in which he has 3 surgeries. Things get better for him, as he works back from this most recent cleanup, and he's just okay. Like, watch an NBA player move. Watch Dwayne Wade walk anywhere. He had a torn meniscus in college, and he played in the league for 12, 13 years. Joel Embiid had 3 knee surgeries in 18 months and was, for stretches of last year, the most dominating player in the NBA.
Yeah.
I think we need to remember that these guys are special for a reason, that their bodies are different than our bodies. And I just know he's going to do whatever he has to do to be out there. If the Packers are taking the long view, I'm taking the long view. And I think that means more than just 2022. I think that means they signed him to a big deal in 2020. They expect him to play on it. And if he does next year, great. Now, I think if he plays the rest of this season and gets through it okay, they can rework the deal, move some money around, and we'll see what the future of Aaron Rodgers is. I also think it's worth wondering, like, if Jordan Love is the quarterback of this team next year, do you want Bakhtiari on the team? Do you want that money on the team, or is that money spent better elsewhere when you have Josh Nijman, Zach Tom, and these other options now?
Yep.
That's not a conversation that I'm ready to have right this minute, but it's a conversation that I think will be had at some point.
No, yeah, I agree. And like you said, he's not a developing, soon to be really good left tackle. He already is that. So he can roll back to those, his mental awareness and all the stuff that he already does well. And he doesn't have much more to improve on. You can go back to where he was playing and hopefully plays, like you said, 80% of him is probably better than 3/4 tackles in the league and second best tackle in the NFC North probably. But now hopefully I don't expect him to see him out there tonight. Be nice to see him out there next weekend. But like you said, if he's not out there next weekend, then it's like, well, shoot, we got to play him now, come week 4. And it's like, at that point, why'd you even take him off pup? But we'll see. A lot of speculation. Nobody knows what's going on. If he plays tonight, great. If he doesn't, we'll wait till next week. Let's switch gears here. Patrick Taylor was called up from the practice squad yesterday. So we got three running backs on the roster for tonight, which is interesting in a couple different ways. One, they chose to bring him up over Tyler Goodson. And 2, Amari Rodgers was getting some, running back 3 buzz before the opener. And I thought we might have seen a little bit of him in the backfield, seeming that we only had A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones last week. But as you famously know, he logged 0 offensive snaps. And I'm not sure what's up with that. What do you think or make of the whole Amari Rodgers situation? And clearly Aaron Rodgers' questions, or his answer to the question about Amari, kind of sparked that whole thing.
I think when I saw the Patrick Taylor thing, my first thought was, man, they just really don't trust Amari Rodgers.
Me too.
Because Matt LaFleur said in one of his press conferences this week that one of the reasons why they didn't play A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones together is they only have 2 running backs on the roster. And so if you have an injury, using them both on one play by definition means only one can get the ball. And if there's no chance for one of them to get the ball, why risk it, basically? And I get that. Mm-hmm. And so I think Patrick Taylor is 21 personnel insurance. That's why he's on this roster. I think it also, in a way, might telegraph that they want to do that a little bit more, which I think is a great idea. I think it's a really useful way to play, especially against a team that wants to play all of this too high. Like, force them to declare some things pre-snap. Right. Force them to say, 2 running backs on the field, the Packers can run the ball effectively and also create some advantageous matchups against linebackers. If that's how you guys want to play it, then, like, okay, here's Aaron Jones running routes on linebackers. Good luck with that. Or here's A.J. Dillon in the secondary on a slant, and now a safety's got to come up and tackle him with a head of steam. I think that that's a really smart way to handle it. It is just a bummer that they don't trust Amari Rodgers to do anything, like really do anything except return kicks. And for Aaron Rodgers, like it was so startling to me to hear him talk about how he needs to get on the same page with the rookie receivers, not the other way around, and how much faith he has in them and how much he appreciates their work ethic. And then when asked about Amari Rodgers, he's basically like, yeah, he's returning kicks. Like that is just damning with faint praise. And I just was like, oof. It's like the gif of the soccer manager who makes the face. That's like that's what it was when I saw it. It was just brutal. And I think the third round curse continues. The Packers cannot find, I just feel bad for Sean Ryan, like rest in peace, Sean Ryan. I'm sorry. No. But like, it's brutal that this guy that they took over Amon-Ra St. Brown, by the way, they might've won the Super Bowl in last season with Amon-Ra St. Brown instead of Amari Rodgers. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things that it's like, if this guy can't get on the field just to spell Randall Cobb, who looked like he's running in mud, then they just don't think he can do anything. Yeah. And I was surprised we didn't see more schemed up run stuff, more like jet sweeps, more interesting sort of diverse looks like that. I think they gave Watson an end around, and then the Dobbs one was a true reverse, but I don't think they gave on the jet sweep once. I'd like to see Aaron Jones in that spot, like the 49ers game 2 years ago. But that would require playing 21.
Right.
And if Amari Rodgers can't do that, what is he on the like? It's like the Office Space. What is it you'd say you do here? Because it's nothing. Now, maybe it's just like a Randall Cobb thing. Like if Randall Cobb weren't on the team, he would be playing more. I think that's probably the case. Yeah. And that might be one of the reasons why Rodgers is annoyed, because Amari Rodgers was drafted, remember, and then they traded for Randall Cobb, which was only after Aaron Rodgers stopped throwing his hissy fit. So, maybe he sees Amari as sort of like we got this for you. And it's like, well, that's not what I asked for. I asked for Randall Cobb. Right. We don't have Diet Coke. We only have Diet Pepsi. All right. Well, then I'll have a Sprite. Like, like it's sort of like that. Yeah. And I don't get it, because I thought he looked good in the preseason. He did have some drops. That one that was a whole shot to Jordan Love, where he had to reach back behind him. It would have been a nice play, but like it's a play that you have to make for your quarterback in a situation like that. Had another drop in traffic. He had an interception that he caused in that Detroit game on a slant that went right off his hands. But there are other times when it's like, get him the ball in space. The touchdown against against San Francisco, where he made three guys miss or broke their tackle and got to the end zone. It's like that guy's got some use on this team. They used him as a running back. He looked like he had some juice as a running back. Where are those touches in a game where you're Matt LaFleur saying, we know we don't have running backs? Well, you drafted one. Mm-hmm. You drafted one. So use him like that. That's why Brian Gutekunst said one of the reasons why he made the team was because he can play some running back, and then you didn't use him in that situation. Yeah. And now it looks like Patrick Taylor is going to be that guy if they need someone else. So, man, it's a bummer. It's frustrating.
No, it's tough to see. And like you said, I was expecting to see him out there in the running back spot last week, especially with the not bringing a guy up. So to not even see him log an offensive snap. And like you said, maybe it is because of Randall Cobb or, kind of stunning that growth. But the reason he's on the team, I feel like at this point, is just we spent a third-round draft pick on him.
Right.
I think that's probably it. He's not a good returner. On kick return, punt return, he's not getting on the offense.
I would put Watson back there on kick return, honestly.
Right. So it's like at this point, the only reason he's on the team is probably because they spent a third-round draft pick on him, which, is tough. But yeah, he looked good in the preseason game against the Niners. You'd like to see him get something just to see if he's good. It's not like he had, a terrible year last year. I feel like he didn't really get an opportunity to even show what he could do. And if he did, it wasn't really something that could set him up for success. And I feel like coach is good at doing that, and he just hasn't done that with him. And maybe that's kind of another avenue of, maybe coach is kind of on the same page as Rodgers. When I saw the tweet about Rodgers, answer the question, I was like, oh, dang, that's kind of rough. And then I saw the video, and I was like,
video's worse.
The video is bad. He takes a drink of his water. And I was like, what's coming here? And then
he basically does the Kermit sipping tea meme.
Yeah. And then his answer, was, was like, okay. And then his little kind of, side smirk at the end, like, you guys kind of understand what I'm saying, right? Please stop asking me about him, kind of deal. But yeah, it's baffling. I don't know, if we'll see much more of him the next few weeks. Maybe injury, barring injuries, he probably won't get out there much. Only time will tell. We could talk about tonight's game, everything surrounding about it, all day long. But before we close it down, let's have a little fun with some over unders, a little rapid fire. I'll name the prop. Just let me know if you're thinking over under. You ready?
Sure.
Rodgers over under 199.5 passing yards.
Easy over.
Justin Fields over under 149.5 passing yards.
Probably over because they're going to have to pass to win.
Yep. Aaron Jones over under 45.5 rushing yards.
Over.
Alan Lazard, assuming he plays, I'm pretty sure he will be playing. I saw his Instagram story, him signaling for a first down. Maybe that's a great sign. Over or under 45.5 receiving yards.
I hate going over on all these because the move is to go under on every player prop, but I just feel like it's got to be over.
No, I'm going over with Rodgers, over with Fields. Like you said, they got to throw, especially if they're down. They got to throw to win.
I also have a bet on over 5.5 tackles for Quay Walker.
Well, he had 7 last game, so I think you're looking pretty good. As long as that shoulder holds up, I think that'll probably be notched within the first half, maybe. Hopefully. I had the under for Aaron Jones. I think, Dylan takes the rushing load. I don't know a thing. I'm just a fan hanging out. I could see Dylan taking the rushing load, Jones being featured in the pass screen game, like we talked about. And Lazard was tough because, you never know if a guy's first game back is a pitch count is going to be.
I think they're going to feed him the ball is what I like. I think
so
if he's healthy enough to play, he'll get 8 targets.
Yep. And I think at least one of those will probably be a big play. So I'm going over with him. Last 2 things here. Which under the radar type of guy has a big play, has a good performance tonight? And then your game prediction, who wins, what's the score?
So the score prediction that I gave on Locked On Packers was 24-3, I think, or 24-13, excuse me.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with that for now. Alan Lazard, knowing Alan Lazard is probably going to play, I think makes me feel more confident that they're going to get to 24 pretty comfortably. Because they could have gotten to 28 pretty comfortably last week without him. And I think this Bears defense is worse. So that's where I'm like, I could see it 27-13, like that kind of thing too. And maybe that's the official prediction there. And then I think it would be easy to say Christian Watson makes a big play in this game. And I think that, there's a good chance for that. But I actually, there was a stretch in, I think it was the second half, where Rodgers threw 3 straight passes to Romeo Doubs. And on the decisive 4th down, it was Doubs out there, not Watson. And so I think there's going to be a plan here this week. He's going to get a little bit more involved. Sammy Watkins takes a couple fewer snaps, and Doubs makes a big play, a momentous play. What are the Dobbs first touchdown score lines? Like, I think that would be a fun bet because I think they could be scheming something up. I think they're going to have a couple 2-tree schemed up things every week. And I think Dobbs is going to be the beneficiary of one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if it was tonight.
No, I'm with you on that. There's just no way I see the Bears team, being able to put up more than 10, 13 points, kind of right there with you. Last week they looked bad. It's hard to envision that route. And with how I think our defense bounces back, I think I'll go Packers 27, Bears 13. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Perfect. We cannot fall to 0-2, heading down to Tampa and then coming back home.
No.
Facing Bill Belichick. We're not going to let it happen. One last funny thing here. All right, Peter, you're the enemy of Bears fans on Twitter.
Yeah.
And seemingly the
That's
one
true.
guy who lives rent-free in their head year-round. Any last words before we close it down for me, for Bears fans? What do you got?
Ooh. I'm just so glad we don't have to hear that stupid music. That stupid Soldier Field Bear Down music. I'm just so glad this game is at Lambeau so we don't have to hear that stupid song anymore. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's perfect. And the thing is with me, I had a Bears fan on last year, and you chatted up with me about the clip I posted. I asked him who like his least favorite like Packers person is, and he he's like, I can't pronounce the last name. It starts with a B. And I was like, I know exactly who you're talking about, Peter Bukowski. And he's like, yep, that's him. And I said, hey, that's kind of a compliment, honestly. It means you're doing something right. So, all right, Peter, always a blast talking Packers. I've included the links to all the places you can find Peter and his work in the description of this video. So be sure to check those out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Let's get a win tonight. For Peter and myself, we'll catch you guys later. Thank you.